But now we'll return to our top story, the war of words between President Trump and North Korea. From Washington, we're joined by Doug Bandow, a former special assistant to President Ronald Reagan and senior fellow at the Cato Institute. It's very good to have you with us here on Newsday. Are you surprised by the aggressive talk from President Trump?
Well, it is unexpected, though I suppose given what we've seen of President Trump so far, it shouldn't surprise us. He tends to be a rather emotional, blustering fellow. But I never really expected to have him talking like Kim Jong-un, where you have trouble distinguishing between the leader of North Korea and the President of the United States.
Now, you were a former special assistant to Ronald Reagan. Would you have ever advised President Reagan to behave in this kind of way?
No, not at all. The North acts the way it does out of weakness. The United States is the strongest country on earth. There's no reason to act that way. The U.S. should maintain a much more, I think, solid stance and shouldn't ape, what we see in a country like North Korea.
Now, you've written about the alliance between the United States and South Korea. You've mentioned that perhaps it's unnecessary given just how strong South Korea is compared to the North. Is that still the case when we see this ratcheting up of intensity from North Korea?
Oh, I think so. It's certainly on the conventional side, there's no need for U.S. troops there. And it's U.S. troops which actually create the problem in terms of being perceived as a threat to the North and bringing us in. What one wants to do on the nuclear issue is a separate issue. No one really wants the North to have nukes. But there's no reason on the conventional side to have the U.S. defending South Korea. It'd be a lot easier if the U.S. stepped back and didn't have troops on the peninsula and then addressed the nuclear issue separately.
But if North Korea insists on continuing with its nuclear program, how on earth do you stop that without the use of the force of threat?
Well, the problem is you can't necessarily unless you want to go to war, and that's really a very bad option. The U.S. has to do better dealing with China. China has specific interests there. The U.S. has to address the question of, again, America's troops there. Issues like that might be useful as a trade to get China to do more. I think the U.S. has to have a mix of deterrence and diplomacy. But diplomacy is an important part of it, especially when it comes to South Korea and Japan. Neither of them want a war in the Korean Peninsula.
Doug Bandow, former special assistant to Ronald Reagan, senior fellow at the Cato Institute. Fascinating to speak to you. Thank you.